All right, welcome to Purposeful Patriarchs. I'm your host, Eman. Doing another show today where we're just going to be looking at the similarities and differences of the conversations of the influencers, and in particular two prominent people. You may have heard of them. One is called Lin May over here in the UK, and the other one is called Candace Owens. And what I want to just do is just to compare and contrast how they sort of get their views out into the world, and essentially why there are people within the black community who aren't advocating for the truth, and this is how things get distorted. So without further ado, what I'll do is I'll just transition here and get up this conversation. So Lin May was on the WTF is Left podcast, where she's just talking about slavery and racism. So what I'll do is let me just pull that back, and then start it again here, and then let's
still suffering from slavery.
How do you know you are? You were to be born and no one ever told you that 500 years ago some of your ancestors were potentially slaves. How would you know that you're suffering from it?
But is it not in your culture and trauma that some may argue that's been passed down over generations? You wouldn't have to be told to know that.
I think you would have to be.
Really? Do you think so?
Well, obviously, if you're being told by your whole community, you're going to be subjected to it and exposed to it. I was homeschooled. I didn't really hear about any of these things. My father was born in Barbados. I was born in Barbados. My mother was born in Pakistan. When I moved to Tottenham and I started growing up and hearing all this civil rights movement or issues with the police, F the police, or the history of slavery, it was new to me. When I asked my dad, how come you haven't told me as much as I hear from British black people about slavery? He was just because at some stage you have to move on. However, when I went to Barbados, I could go to certain period properties, like plantation houses, and I would find my surname there. Do you know what I mean?
What do you say suffering from slavery?
Yeah, so that's the conversation with Lin May, and if I could maybe sort of on the actual post under my my tag, you'll see that I put a comment there. Let me move my face out of the screen so you can see it properly, and then I will talk you through my comment. It's just up here. So basically what I said here is that there was slavery and racism, then Jim Crow, and then segregation, then came marginalization, and this is where white men massacred Black Wall Street through riots and other 20 cities. They used the urban renewal to run black businesses out of town in 1956, and they put guns and drugs in the community in the 80s. Shall I go on? I can go into the 90s in terms of the welfare reform and the 94 crime bill that Bill Clinton signed into law, and obviously one of the reasons why this is such an interesting conversation is that not long ago, this lady here, called Candace Owens, people may remember her. They will definitely know her, and she had a conversation on her podcast, and so shout out to Torian Rain Reloaded, who does an excellent job of breaking down these conversations. And just going back to Lin May quickly, is that I don't think people like her father actually help the conversation by not educating their sons and daughters about the history of slavery, because for them they say that it doesn't matter, but as Lin May correctly said, you go back to Barbados and you will see your name in the plantation houses. So why doesn't that matter to you? And it's not just slavery, it's the racism, it's the Jim Crow, it's the segregation, it's all of those things that happened after, because too many people get held onto the racism. Because if it was 300-400 years ago, cool, that's it. But if nobody's hands are clean since slavery, specifically the white power structure, the white dominant society. And this is why I talk about trying to define things accurately, and then also to do pattern recognition, to use our logic to kind of say, has this happened before? Has this happened in history before? Where else has it been similar? Where else has it been different? So that you can actually contextualize it properly, so you can know how to move forward. And Candace Owens, who's another content creator and influencer who has a very big platform, similar to Lynn May, they come out with uninformed opinions, and try to say, hey, it came from somewhere else, somebody else was involved, or it doesn't matter, and people latch onto that, and it sort of absolves them of not actually dealing with what's happening in the modern day. Because no matter what people say, history isn't just past, it still affects us to today. So let's see what Torian Rain Reloaded has to say.
It has been quite some time since the last time I've talked about the Coonstress, and maybe that's for good reason. But there's been things that she's been saying that's like, okay, that has nothing to do with us, so why should I intervene? And right now she's on a kick where she's basically fighting with everyone else that's not involving us. Until I came across this clip right here. Now, I don't know when this clip was made. It could have very well been recent. And this is one of those times where I have to say something about what she said. So I'm going to go ahead now and insert the clip. It's only about nearly 40 seconds long. Listen to what she has to say, and then we're going to break it down.
Contract lords. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history, because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery, because that wasn't exactly a white men sport, okay? Jewish people were the ones that were trading us. Jewish people were in control of the slave trade. They buried a lot of it, but it's there, and you can find it. I think all of us need to wake up to this, because it's...
So y'all just heard what she had to say. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back and break the video apart and like insert what I have to say, just so I'm not mixing or messing my words up here, because she just basically said a load of BS, but that's not surprising coming from her. So I'm going to go and run it back, but then I'm going to now interject where I feel she really messed up on a lot of the stuff that she said.
Contract lords. I challenge Black Americans to wake up to your true history.
Let's start with that part right there where she says she challenges Black Americans to wake up and know their true history, or our history. First of all, Candace, we do not need a lecture from you about what our history is. And if Black people don't know their history, they can more so learn it from someone who's more qualified to teach it, and you are definitely not qualified. Remember, this woman has Caribbean roots, and she's speaking as if she is Black American. She's never even claimed Black American. I rarely ever hear this woman even call herself Black unless it benefits her in some way. Remember, this is the same woman who last year had her so-called Blackest Week ever, when she decided, oh, I'm going to go on the Breakfast Club and Joe Budden's podcast for like 2 or 3 weeks, and then try to ingratiate myself back into Black society, even though she was never over here to begin with. And then she hopped and skipped her way back to Ben Shapiro over at the Daily Wire, and not even a month later she ended up getting fired, and now she's on this new crusade. So if we need to take any lessons about Black American history, it definitely wouldn't be from the likes of...
Yeah, so Torian absolutely knocks it out of the park there. And this is one of the fundamental issues, when people don't really have the... I mean, Lin May, for example, has the heritage, and I think so. Like Candace isn't foundational Black American, like full Black American, so they don't understand what the history of slavery is like, and that is so fundamentally important. Either they're uninformed or they don't know the full picture. Like, and this is why these conversations, along with the relationship conversation within the black community, all of it gets distorted because people are uninformed and are untruthful. Like, and this is why, like, I'm here, people like Tory and Reloaded are all in this space, not just telling the truth, but correcting, like, the errors, like, and that's such a fundamental job of people like us. So like Candace is from the Caribbean, and she should actually know better, because their slavery happened, whether it was in places like Haiti or whether it was in places like Barbados or Jamaica, like Trinidad, Tobago. All of these places suffered from colonialism, suffered from slavery, like the British Commonwealth Empire, the French Empire. All of these sorts of things happened in those locations. So they can't just simply say, oh, educate yourself on slavery, educate yourself on history. And as I've said before, these things have been sort of perpetuated over a long period of time. So it's not just the slavery, but there were compounding issues. And I'll do an episode on a conversation that happened with Boris Kojo, and the comedian Godfrey and his co-host on the 154 podcast, which talks about colonialism and colonizers and different things like that as well. Because again, some recent comments have come out from the Manchester United co-owner about colonization, and all this sorts of stuff needs to be corrected, because politically people are being enfranchised with the wrong narrative, without doing their research, without reading the books, without listening to informed opinions. And sadly, the saddest thing is that these topics, when they're done correctly, are not your sexy topics, they're not your sensationalized topics, and that's why sometimes people don't listen to them and don't want to really get involved in them. So let's continue with what Torian has to say.
Of her.
Because your quarrel is not with white men, okay? Wake up to who publishes these books and keeps us warring with one another. Christians versus Christians, right? Christians versus Muslims. Wake up and learn the true history of slavery, because that wasn't exactly a white men sport.
Now, this is the part that I really couldn't wait to get in and break down, because she said our issue isn't with white men, and that white men weren't responsible for slavery. Our issue wasn't with white men. I cut it, what she said and who she's about to pivot the blame on, but we're gonna get to that too. So I went to ChatGPT and just simply asked, did white American men oppress black Americans? And it says yes. White American men, as a dominant social and political group, did oppress black Americans, especially from the founding of the United States through much of the 20th century. And here's a clear factual breakdown. Slavery, 1619 to 1865. Enslavement of black people was legal and enforced by laws written and upheld almost entirely by white men. Enslaved people had no legal rights and were treated as property. After slavery, segregation and discrimination. After the Civil War, many white lawmakers and officials created black codes and later Jim Crow laws. These laws enforced racial segregation, denied voting rights, and limited economic opportunities for black Americans. Violence and intimidation. White-led groups and individuals used violence like lynchings and race riots to maintain racial hierarchy. Law enforcement and courts often failed to protect black citizens or hold perpetrators accountable. And political economic power. For much of the U.S. history, white men controlled government, courts, land ownership, banks, and major businesses. And this allowed discriminatory policies like redlining and unequal education funding to continue for generations. And all of that is still felt to this day. So right there, Candace just blatantly lied. So she's doing this to protect her overlords. And this is exactly why when people say, oh, why do I talk about her? Just leave her alone, just ignore her. This is probably the one times where I will come out and say something about her. Notice I haven't talked about her in months. This is my first time talking about Candace in months, and she's...
Yeah, again, so yeah, just echoing my comments. Again, like, this is why lies and everything need to be corrected within the black community. So it's not just the truth telling, but it's also the correction, because there is a next generation coming behind us, and they need to be informed and enfranchised with the right information, because when people like Lynn May or Candace Owens come out with incorrect information, focusing on and I think Torain goes onto this. So yeah, drop him a like and go watch the video for yourself. I won't get into into what the Jews actually did, because they were only, even though they did practice slavery, they were a very small fraction of that. And the reason why I juxtapose this with, or compared this, try and compare this with Lynn May in the UK, is because, again, they are the loudest voices in this conversation. They're uninformed, sometimes blatantly lying, and this is how the conversation gets distorted, and isn't held with an honest lens, with an honest view, and you can't build anything on a foundation of lies, and this is one of the things that I talk about in terms of me being a believer and following Christ, is that he came to establish truth, most importantly about humanity, in terms of the fact that we're all sinners. And you will see that as I go through the history, nobody is perfect. Nobody has no blood on their hands, and when nobody has no blood on their hands, we have to call people out for their wrongdoing, but also help them to see what the truth is, because a lot of these people don't know how dishonest that they're being, how many people are being deceived, and ultimately, when we're all judged before Almighty God, before Christ, this is the sort of thing that will come up against her, and also against us who don't believe in Christ. So again, this is such an important conversation, because we do need to get to the truth, and we don't want to get into the distorted view of things, and this is why I break down, as I did in my comment on the Lynn May video, is that it's racism. It's not just slavery, because they never link the slavery and the racism, because the whole world participated in slavery. It wasn't just America, but then America was one of the first countries, I believe, to codify the color of people's skin into law, and that's what Torain spoke about, and then obviously he talks about Jim Crow, segregation, discrimination, and then obviously I talk about the marginalization, and this is where I talk about sort of things like the breaking up of the black family, and also the fact that you can the underemployment the unemployment of black men, so that's not getting jobs, and then the underemployment, so basically being paid less than other groups of men, and then also the fact that a lot of black men were last to be hired and first to be fired. Then you've got things like Black Wall Street and those 20 other cities. You've got the Federal Highway Act and all these sorts of different things, because this just shows that even when black people don't ask for handouts, they're still being marginalized, or their own personal efforts are still being undermined, and this is why they are in the way they are, and again, this is something that also goes over into things like feminism, and it also goes into the whole black relationship and marriage discussion and the family discussion, because once you understand the history, you begin to understand why the community is in absolute disrepair in both black America, and that's a spirit that's also over here in Black Britain, and we have to learn from America to kind of make sure that we steer the next generation in the right way, so that we can create things like generational wealth, better black education, more black homes, and more black families. So yeah, I'll leave it there for now. I just want to thank you for listening to me. Again, please, if you want to email me, it's in the group. You can follow me on social media. You can see it on the comment there, and then I think this is a really important conversation, because black Americans and black Brits are not two sides of the same coin, but there are similarities and differences, and obviously we've been over here for a lot of we're younger than the Black Americans, and we look to the Black Americans to kind of see how they go through solutions and look at their problems. And I think one of the reasons why Lynn May is a very problematic person is because when there are institutions like Greater Manchester Police, the London Metropolitan Police, who produce reports that actually talk about the fact that they are institutionally still racist, that again is some of the reasons why there are still so many issues within the Black community. So yeah, thanks again, and I really, please just share, drop a like. If that's one thing that you can do for me, I'll be massively appreciated. I'm just a small channel, and I'm trying to help people by trying to provide accurate information, most importantly to bring them to Christ, because there are lies in all facets of life. I'm doing digging on some of those things. I can't cover everything, but again, what I want to try and do is provide unity both between Black people and then also the wider society as well, because I think there are important people out there that can advocate for us to kind of bring us out of this difficult situation. So God bless you all, and thanks for your time.